Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee meeting for the 5th of June. And of course, this is our last meeting for SPMP until August. So for those that are listening, we will be back again in early August after today. All righty. First of all, I'd like to ask Dale Marie to do karakia, please.
Tēnā koe, Liz. Tēnā tātou ki te whare. Ko rangi ko papa ko ka puta ko rongo, ko tāne mahuta, ko tangaroa, ko tūmatauinga, ko haumea tiki tiki, ko tāwhiri mātia, tokono rā, ko rangi ki runga, ko papa ki raro. Ka puta ki te ira tangata, ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama, tihei, mauri ora. I te tūtahi mihi nui kia kingi tū heitia, te whare kahui ariki, rire hau, pai mairire, e mihi ana ki ngā hunga mate, te toko waru i ngā pō, moe mai rā kia koutou, ki te hunga ora i tēnei rangi, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you, Dale Marie. Can I call for any apologies, please? I have received apologies from Councillor Marcus Gower, and I believe we've also got apologies from Bill Harris. Are there any others? I think everyone else is here. Can I have a move and a seconder, please? Okay, thank you, Lou. Thank you, Andrew. All in favour? Carried. Right, disclosures of members' interests. I'm going to declare an interest in an item that we have later on in the day, which is proposed plan change 14 as a Fonterra shareholder. Are there any other disclosures of members' interests? Monty?
I will do the same on the same item for the same reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Are there any other disclosures? Okay, fantastic, everyone. Any late items? Nothing. Confirmation of order of the meeting. Everyone happy? Claire is happy to move and Roger's happy to second. Yes. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Okay, confirmation of the minutes on the 7th of May. Have there been or are there any changes anyone would like to make? No, Dale Marie is happy to move those minutes and Claire is happy to second. All in favour? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we will move on to our first item, which is our 25 to 34 long-term plan, approval of the groups of activities structure. So, good morning, Melissa and Anthea.
Right, good morning. So this is our first report for the 2025-34 long-term plan, and as the Chair said, it's recommending that the current group of activities structure is retained for this LTP, with the exception of the small change to the strategy and community relationships activity, which sits under the governance group of activities. So we're proposing to call that the strategy and strategic partnerships activity, just to provide clarity on what's included under the activity and to ensure it's in alignment with the organisational structure. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone's got.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Claire.
Yes, thanks. I was interested to know how cycleways will be catered for in the group structure. I think that you mentioned that it would be under transportation. Yeah, it's just that there's a bit of a grey area really, because in some ways it could be community facilities or assets or something. I'm just very keen for us to be reporting on either the number of kilometres that the district has or the number of users and things like that. I mean, gets a lot of comment from our community about it, so I'm keen that we do report it well.
Thank you, Claire. Roger.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree totally with you in terms of the reporting. However, I tend to think that it is an integrated part of our overall transportation network. And therefore, even though we need the reporting coming through, it's equally as important that it's an integrated system and therefore in transportation in general. I think that's the place I'd prefer to see it. Yeah, but I agree totally with more information coming through on it. Yeah.
Thank you, Roger. Melissa.
I'll just raise a point there. So This report is seeking approval for the structure of these groups of activities. What you're talking about is essentially all the information that sits under it, which is the detail that is included in the long-term plan, and then obviously following through to the annual report where we do report on things like kilometres of roads, cycleways, footpaths, that kind of things. And we've got certain performance measures around different things. So yeah, just wanted to provide that clarification.
Yeah, no, look, thanks, Melissa. I guess, I think the question's been, you're happy, clear, aren't you? We're going to see all that covered under transportation, which is excellent. Okay, if there's no other questions on this particular item, we've got a recommendation A and B on page 13. Can I move? So Roger will move it, Lou will second it. Sorry, Bruce will second it. Both put their hand up at the same time. We'll let Bruce second that one. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, everyone's happy. That's excellent. Look, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've had the opportunity to just check that everything is going to be covered. So it's awesome. Right, if we move on to our next item, which is our 25-34 long-term plan, our approval to retain the current significance and engagement policy.
Thank you. So I'll take this report as read, just noting that staff have reviewed the policy and believe it is fit for purpose with some potential areas where improvements could be made, but just take into consideration the impact that local water done well could have on the policy. We're proposing that the current policy is retained till the 2027 LTP when a more robust review could be undertaken. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, anyone got any questions on this item? Roger?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm in agreement with the current structure of the finance policy, the significance and engagement policy, sorry, and particularly coming up to the new LTP as we're going forward, because we'll have a lot of decisions about major projects and the need for consultation and engagement of the community in the future of those projects. So I think it's important that we establish this now so our community is aware of the need and our commitment to engaging with them for future projects that are likely to come in.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, any other comments on this particular item? Lou?
On the rates remission policy, I received an email this morning or today from LFE that are talking about rates remission. Are we aware of we're going to implement or discuss that at a later date when you talk of the policies that we're adopting within this?
Yeah, so that rates remit is going to the LGNZ conference.
Whether we support or not
Yeah.
is our decision.
Yeah, I think we'll be keeping that as a separate item, but good point, and I think it's topical, and so we'll let Mayor Susan speak to that a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks, Lou. Okay, are there any other queries? Andrew?
Not a query. I think the policy is good for purpose, and I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Andrew's going to move it. Philip's going to second it. All in favour? Carried. All right, now I'd like to invite a very special person up to our table. Now we've got, our next item is our age-friendly policy, and we've got retired councillor Hazel Barnes here, and I'm going to invite Hazel to the table because she would like to speak a little bit later. But firstly, we will allow Melissa to introduce the item and speak to it. Now Daisy is here too.
Before we start, I would just like to introduce Daisy. So Daisy has started with us 6 months ago, sorry, as a strategic policy advisor. Thank you. Working my team. So she has been working part-time while she finishes up her studies, but yeah, this is her first report today.
Thank you, Daisy. Hey, welcome. Great to have you here around the table. And are you going to, you'll be introducing the item?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
So morena, everyone. I would like to take the report as read and just highlight a few key points for you all. The purpose of this report is to consider the revocation of the age-friendly policy and the associated implementation plan. The policy was adopted in 2016 and its purpose is to encourage the contribution of the elderly, to prepare for the ageing population and the delivery of services, and to position Waipa as a desirable place for the elderly. The report makes specific reference to the development of the policy, which was in response to a submission received through the 2015 to 25 long-term plan. This submission advocated for council to become accredited members of the World Health Organization's Global Network for Age-Friendly Cities and Communities. Staff understand that other community groups, such as Grey Power, were also advocating for this policy at around the same time. A key part of membership to the global network was continuous engagement and sharing of experiences with fellow members. Since writing this report, staff have confirmed that Waipa are not members of this network. Staff believe that the Local Government Act provides adequate provisions for elderly needs through standard planning and engagement practices. Examples of this are demonstrated through Council's transport strategy, particularly with respect to urban mobility and the prioritised footpath maintenance program. However, Council could benefit from taking a more coordinated approach to age-friendly activities. In addition to this, the policy has not been reviewed since it was first adopted in 2016. All of this suggests low efficacy of the policy. So due to the reasons discussed, the outcome we are seeking through this report is to revoke the policy and instead adopt an age-friendly strategy. I will now hand over to Melissa for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy, well done. Okay, Melissa.
I don't have any further, so just, yeah, happy to take questions.
Okay, all right, look, thank you for that. Hey, look, I guess I might just kick off and I know there'll be others and I will ask Hazel to speak shortly as well. So I'll just kick off this. So it was back in 2016 or thereabouts that, of course, that we had Hazel around our council table at the time, and it felt appropriate after a conference that Hazel and I had been to in Wellington that we needed to consider or highlight the needs of our elderly, and we wanted it to be a bit more top of mind. So this kind of piece of work came about at that time. But I also wanted to point out that Hamilton in 2018 did become the first place in New Zealand to have an age-friendly policy as well, which at that time was quite important. So yeah, I guess I have some real reservations around this. I think the fact that we haven't necessarily looked at the policy again hasn't meant that we're uninterested at all. It's simply that we've had other priorities around the district. But I do think that all the work that we do always and should consider our age-friendly policy. So I do have reservations around removing this item. So I'll leave it at that because I'm sure there's some more discussion to be had. So I'll take Roger, and then Hazel, would you like to say a few words after that? Yeah, we'll get the microphone to you as well. So Roger.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And I've got to say how lovely it is to see Hazel seated around this table again. Yeah. And secondly, looking so fabulous and well. So great to see you. I was really pleased a couple of weeks ago when Mayor Susan tasked myself and Lou with going back to our communities and attempting to re-establish the senior council, which perhaps also had dropped off the radar a little bit. Now, appropriately, I actually went back to the Cambridge community and brought together a number of our aged associations and people to talk about whether or not the senior council was something that they would like to see. That got a tremendous response, but I also at the time placed this document in front of them and actually distribute it to them beforehand, just to gauge what their response was to the possible revocation of this policy. And I've got to say, they were very vocal in their support of this policy, but more so because one of them had actually read it in detail. And one of the objectives is that council involves the elderly in decision-making where they are significantly affected. And I thought, well, that's appropriate, taking it back to this organisation and perhaps the future of this document. We should wait until, as it looks as if these aged entities, whatever we call them, and however they're structured, perhaps their first role should be to look at this document and for them to tell us whether it's appropriate and whether they would like to see this retained. So that means we'd achieve two objects. Firstly, we would get the elderly involved in this, and we would actually be meeting one of these policy statements in here to involve the elderly in decision-making which directly affects them, which the revocation of this policy would. So I'd suggest that we actually defer any decision on this until we've actually got the voice of elderly in place to be able to come back to us with what their thoughts are on the policy.
Okay, look, thank you, Roger. Okay, now Hazel, because
Oh,
Hazel,
thank you.
Hazel's been involved with the Te Amutu Grey Power for many years, but also, of course, is an ex-Waipa District Councillor as well. So Hazel, I'll invite you to speak to this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and how great it is to be here. See you all looking young and not very much change. And I'll just simply add on to what you've said, Roger. As usual, hits the mark. But Michael sends his apologies today, Madam Chair, because he had another engagement, and that's how I came to be here. Walking stick, hearing aids, and everything else that's required to actually take part in the conversation here. In Waipa, we have got 14,000 people between the ages of 50 and 90, e.g. 38.7%. The 65 to 90-year-olds are 21.4% of that particular figure. And our age-friendly meetings here in council were rather boring. I went to all of them, and there were a couple of us that really wanted to change things then before we lost the people that were coming. But the people that were chosen to come and speak really, from their community, really didn't actually have the grasp of what you would actually say and do and what we would try and achieve. When they gave their reports, it was on, some pavement had been fixed, and we all knew that. And so the whole aim of that particular group was not good. And the staff would come in, excuse me saying this, but with equally boring presentations that were above what these people could take in or even take back to their community and do anything about it. So it was a pretty difficult thing. And some of them would even fall asleep in the meeting. I never did that, but sometimes in fact, I just used to sit there feeling very agitated because. All right. Okay. Look. I know. I know. But you're going to listen, because I actually heard in Roger's speech him saying something about we'll do this and we'll do that. Well, sorry, but you won't do this and you won't do that. You will come out and confer with us about what it is that we really want. So you really get it in place. The whole run of the meeting was difficult, and staff reports that were not of great interest. The need now is to regroup, have meetings that are going somewhere with interest to our seniors and the folk of Waipa. Even though staff and attendees at past meetings were there, there was no attempt to feel good and leave with some positive attitude towards better things to come. Meetings were cancelled, and they were at the drop of a hat. And towards the end, no further meetings were arranged to discuss what was needed. So we just dwindled away, and it was very hard to keep going. Also, the skill of setting up a successful age-friendly committee is to remember the ageing process has to take into account the many different needs of men and women as they grow even older. There is no set way that anyone ages, and no one in this room has any idea how they might age. Neither did I, but it happened. But we can do so much better, and we can come up with a program that tells our seniors that you care. The need to be much better organised, and I just tacking on my comments onto what you had to say, Roger. I am aware of how it feels when I cannot drive a car, and how then am I living alone out at Kihikihi going to get about. That's my biggest worry. Thank you, and it's just great to be here. And therefore, I agree. Please just take a step back, do a bit more consultation, get it clear. We're not just the front post at a post somewhere in a fence line. We're actually living live people that still can talk, that still have needs. And I didn't know what a lot of those were until I actually arrived, and I'll be 86 next year, just to let you all know. So therefore, this is what's not been happening. We haven't been talking to the people or listening to what it was that they needed. So good luck, and thank you very much for attending to this issue.
Thank you, Hazel. Look, I think wise words, as always, Hazel. And, I really appreciate your comments. I think what it's done this morning is it's just because that voice isn't always around this table, or we hear from Grey Power or other organisations necessarily that often, there's still a huge need, of course, to always keep some of the issues top of mind. And in fact, as I was listening to you, I was also reflecting on the disability sector as well, which I think is, again, an area that, of course, is always in our minds, but perhaps, there could be some work done in this space alongside this. Maybe this is a bit more of an inclusive group. Melissa, did you have any comments?
I guess just with respect to a policy versus a strategy. So I guess in reading the policy as it's currently worded, staff acknowledge there is some really good content in there, but it's not typically what would be included in a policy, and it's probably more what we would consider to be the purpose and the work of a strategy. So that's why, I guess our amended recommendation would be to take the purpose of the policy and turn it into something like a strategy, and that would enable us to take a really coordinated approach as an organisation, and I guess has a little bit more flexibility in terms of the review period and the implementation plan that would sit underneath that. I absolutely acknowledge your point, Councillor Gordon, and that's a great one to go out to our elderly community and see what they would want in a document like this. But I guess my recommendation would be that the policy is revoked, but it be turned into a strategy. There is value in this piece of work. It just doesn't fit quite right for me being a policy from a technical perspective.
Thank you, Melissa. That's good food for thought. So Lou is next, and then we'll go Roger and then Andrew.
Firstly, it's a great honour and privilege to be able to sit here and listen to you again, Hazel. We spent a lot of time side by side over the years, and thank you very much for your presentation. We're actually considering with the senior council at the current point in time of dividing it so that they are town centric. So Roger will be doing Cambridge and I'm going to be operating within Te Awamutu. And like Roger, I've done a lot of groundwork at the moment and getting a great response. Unfortunately, I didn't get hold of Grey Power to this date, but I will. So we're working with all of the local people in the local area. The one question I just asked with this policy that we're talking about, I see that the submission highlighted that Waipa District Council would gain accreditation to the World Health Organization, WHO, for age-friendly cities and communities. So really beyond that, it's not really a policy, it was just something that we were trying in, accreditation. But I do think that we need to go back and discuss with our elderly what we need to do and have these meetings within what we call senior council, rather than the current past structure, somewhere where we can actually discuss what the problems they are having with transportation, with the health system, with what's happening within council and what we're doing. So I'm very, very keen to see that and discuss that with you a bit later on. Perhaps give you a ring this afternoon and we can talk about it.
Thank you, Lou. Roger, then Andrew.
Thanks. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I take your point, difference between a strategy and a policy. But again, if we rescind this now, we make the decision. And if you make the decision to go down the track of a strategy instead of a policy, we're again making the decisions that the people that we're talking about should be telling us what they want and what they want to do. And it may well be that they see more value in a strategy than a policy. And so I think it's a question of going back and finding out what they want before we make any move. And it may well be that after they've met, they make the decision that the policy should be rescinded. But let them make the decision.
Thanks, Roger. Andrew, then Mike, then Claire.
Thanks. A couple of questions. Did we achieve the accreditation with who?
Not to our knowledge.
So-
There are 7 councils in the country, that Hamilton City is one of them, but yeah,
Right.
we haven't.
No, okay. So look, I've been looking through the implementation plan and there's lots of good stuff in there without any doubt. But what I'm getting from the report is that staff are thinking that the bulk of these things are being done in the normal course of the business that we do. Not sure I entirely agree with it, but I that's the message I'm getting. Is that correct?
I think there's probably 2 parts to it. So yes, the local, as the report states, the Local Government Act does provide for elderly provisions to be taken into consideration as part of normal planning processes. But through the development of a strategy, it would really benefit from taking a more holistic approach. So taking into consideration something like a senior council, whether or not that is something that would pick up, but what other initiatives could we do that would enable us to, yeah, as I say, have that coordinated approach in alignment with the objectives that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, and the last question really is, I'm also picking up that staff consider this would be a more effective use of staff resources and time, as opposed to sticking with the actual policy. And
Yeah, so I mean, I guess regardless, the policy is out of date. It hasn't been reviewed since it was developed in 2016. Normally a policy would be reviewed every 3 years, 3 to 6 years, depending on what it is. That's a standard best practice. A strategy does take a more long-term view. So with a strategy, it would be more 6 to 10 years or beyond. So yeah, that's why we'd be recommending for a strategy to be developed. It's not necessarily a problem with the content, but either way, it does. This piece of work does need reviewing. What form it takes is up for discussion.
okay, so the recommendation doesn't actually recommend that a strategy be, formed. So would we consider adding that?
Yes, so we have, since writing this report, sent a subsequent amendment to the recommendation.
We have it here. I'm just waiting to see where the sense of the mood is going, of the mood of the room, sorry. So we're going to go to Mike and then Claire.
Right, thank you through Madam Chair. Yeah, a couple of things. I like your term, Hazel, and it's good to see you were getting better with age, Hazel. So yeah, well done and well spoken. So I liked how you said we just need to regroup, which I think is pretty much what I'm hearing of have a look at whatever comes out of this. I've had a good look through this and I really see this as a really sleeping giant in terms of piece of work for the council. It's just got so much potential. Policy is sort of set by the governance group. And that's us, as far as I'm concerned. We control policy. The strategy, the implementation plan, yeah, that's largely staff, and our involvement is as we see fit or you see fit, along with all the stakeholders that it would take to create a new strategy or this implementation plan. And there is so much good stuff, as Andrew's mentioned, in this implementation plan that I guess if it has been collecting dust, this whole thing, from the policies, assuming through to this in lots of ways. I think we need to dust it off. I would like to see the policy not go today at all. I think this whole thing is needs time to be really developed and looked at, because as Hazel also mentioned, 38% of our population, and one of the things here it's got, should we treat elderly people differently? And it gave, should we treat youth differently? And my answer is hell yes. The demographic of the country is becoming elderly. We definitely should be treating them differently. The absolute priority for the well-being, in every respect for not just Waipa, but for the whole country as we move towards an elderly population. So, yeah, little ad hoc things like in our general policies, we look after the elderly because we widen footpaths outside rest homes. Hey, some of us might need up in rest homes. And that's the sort of narrow thinking I think we've got here, and it's really not good enough is my take on it. So, yeah, I don't support rejecting this. I do support re-looking at it and getting the stakeholders involved and bringing us back at some time in the future and starting again. Absolutely review it, but do not just revoke this because we haven't dusted it off in 6 years. That's just poor decision making, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, Claire.
Okay, thanks. And I would like to say thank you, Hazel, for coming along and speaking to this. You obviously, feel pretty deeply about it. And I think that's a message for us, that it is really important. Like other people that have spoken today, I think it might be good to just delay, any action on this point. And we know that Roger and Lou are doing good work, with those senior communities and get some good feedback on them. I've just got a slightly different take on the comments that are made, and that is like when this was put in place, central government was just ramping up their involvement with positive ageing, and there's quite a bit of work that's been done since this policy that we've put in place. And I'd like some work done to make sure that we are, making sure that what's available from central government for elderly communities, that we are making the most of that here. And the second point I'd like to make, sort of picking up what Liz says about the disabled community and Mike said about wellbeing generally. I mean, because since this time we have developed those 4 wellbeings, as key priorities for council, and that includes social wellbeing. And in a way, that's that more holistic approach. That's making sure that we meet the needs of all our different sectors in our community, whether it is the elderly or youth or disabled. And I guess that's why I'm sort of trying to draw Ahuaki into it as well, that I think we've looked at how we can engage really effectively with our communities at a more grassroots level and using better participating processes and things. And I do feel encouraged by that. And so I'm not too worried about what happens with the policy right now. I mean, I do like the idea of having a strategy that probably reflects the social wellbeing and make sure we do an excellent job of engaging the various parts of our community so that all of them are getting what they need to live well here in Waipa. So definitely feel that an important part of that work is the engagement that's happening at the moment in Te Awamutu and Cambridge. And happy to give it a bit of space and see where that leads.
Okay. Hey, look, thank you, Claire. Look, I just want to check back in with the mood of the room, and I think what I'm hearing is that we will not. The recommendation obviously needs to change. I'm suggesting that we just receive the report, and that we don't. We remove B, which is revoking the age-friendly policy. We might include a new recommendation, which is to direct staff to bring this matter back to the committee for consideration once the senior council has been established and is able to provide feedback from the senior council members. So that's a suggested. Am I interpreting the mood of the room correctly, Ms. Susan?
Can I just make that correction around senior council? My understanding is that a decision was made a decision not to recommence the senior council as it was known, had previously, and that we'd tasked councillors Lou Brown and Gordon to investigate what options actually could be created that were more effective and meaningful, rather than a resource and staff heavy, which required advertising, gathering of people at a formal senior council, which oftentimes really just created a situation for collection of complaints. I think there's a greater level of engagement we want to have, a more meaningful connection with our older communities. And in doing so, both of these gentlemen across the room from me have canvassed some of their communities and understand formatively that there's potentially two groups rising out of this. So if we refer to a re-establishment of senior council, I think we're a bit misguided, because we're talking about the creation of two more meaningful and effective groups that relay those challenges to our decision and policy making, not just a collection of CRMs as it has been in the past. So I'd be hesitant to refer to the recreation of senior council. I'd prefer that it be referred to potentially multiple groups that establish a more effective and meaningful relationship between that community and our council.
No, that point well made. I think Claire hit the nail on the head when she was talking about including social well-being as well. So look, we're going to pop a new recommendation up on the screen for you all to consider. And again, this is just a suggestion at this point. Just take the point Mike Pettit said before. I mean, it has been 8 years since this policy was created, so it is time to review it or to revoke it. But we need to, I think the mood of the room today is that we actually need to do something. So I just ask you all to read this, and then I'll take some more comments.
Can I just, through you, Madam Chair, also add that this paper is not intended to sort of snub our nose at the elderly community at all. It's a case of, and I would hate for this to be seen as that. It's more a case of being honest about the effectiveness of the document as it currently exists. And I guess in parallel to that, these two councils have been doing this work. So I would be really concerned if the older sectors of our community saw this as a really uncaring step by our council. It's not at all. It's just a case of asking ourselves and challenging ourselves as around a better way of introducing and bringing that thinking, those life experiences to our decision making. Personally, I don't believe that this policy as it stands and the implementation plan does that. I take the advice of our staff on that. I don't believe they would have brought this to us had there not been a really solid ground to. Doesn't mean to say there's not more work necessary in this area. Most definitely there does need to be more work done, but I don't believe the retention of the policy in and of itself is actually going to do that. And retention of it now is just more of a statement that we won't remove it rather than actually addressing the challenges that exist in that community.
Absolutely. And I think that all the councillors have voiced that today. So just closing comments, Roger, then Mike.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And once again, yeah, I think just to endorse what Mayor Susan was saying, the feedback that I'm certainly getting from the people that I have spoken with is very much to have a east and west, if you like, or Te Awamutu versus Cambridge entities. The people from Cambridge would very much like the opportunity to sit down and talk about what they feel is important to them. My second is a question, irrespective of this, whether we do not revoke this policy, my understanding is that that would not stop staff if they thought it was necessary to begin to put some efforts and thoughts into the development of a strategy. You don't need an absolute direction from council to put thoughts into that.
It would be useful to have that direction, and I guess take on board the comments that have been shared today.
But the second clause on that really directs you to have further communication with the sector in terms of any future direction, doesn't it?
So first of all, let's just be really clear. We're not talking necessarily about a sector as per Mayor Susan's comments. So I think what we're wanting to do is both Lou and Roger, you guys have been tasked with your sector to bring your findings back to Mayor Susan. And then I think we need to regroup and we need to understand what the future looks like, because I think what I'm hearing around the table is this is more than just the senior sector, it's also disability, it's social wellbeing. And I think we're starting to create something quite new and quite different here, which I think is really exciting. And I think it's going to be all encompassing. So I think I'm not going to take I think we don't want to jump the gun too much. I think we both have been tasked with a job. Let's get that done, and then staff will be able to see, envisage, I guess, a future going forward. Mike.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Just to finish up, 8 years since the review of this, and of course we've got 2 strategic staff members that have been appointed since then, and they're our community service workers, if I've got the right term right. And to me, this is right up their lane to whatever's developed here to be part of a mix. Yeah, I just see this being really up in their lane. And I know that apparently they're busy. Yeah, of course they're busy, but mate, I just think this is them to a T.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Okay, Kirsty.
Through the chair, Melissa, when she spoke, talked about taking a holistic approach, and just on the back of what Councillor Pettit said, I think that's really important, that this provides an opportunity for us to connect the dots. So strategy, working in conjunction with our elected members, but also acknowledging the work that is underway through the communications and engagement team. We've developed an external communications strategy, but work is underway now in terms of a customer experience strategy and a framework to give effect to that. So we need to ensure that we are bringing all of those things together. You've just mentioned the community advisor roles. Absolutely think they have a part to play, and ensure that we adopt a holistic approach. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I think we've landed in a really great space today. So I think that the recommendation still stands. Is everyone happy with that? Excellent. Okay, so I had Lou who would like to move. I've got Roger who'd like to second. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, lots of space. Hazel, would you like the final word?
Yes, I do. Look, I'm thrilled to hear that I can sit back amongst you young people and hair, because when you lift the lid off this, there's no lid on it. What you're going to discover out there is thousands of older senior citizens who have passed the age of 65. That's where the line is. Riding bikes, swimming, hiking, having a great lifestyle, but they're not included in a whole lot of discussions. So I've got a bit like this too. I shrug my shoulders and say, oh, well, to hell with it. They can make their decisions, but I'm going to do what I feel best. You've got, and also the other thing too that's happening out there is that here's a whole workforce that wants to be involved, has got skills that they can help with, and they want to be part of it. So thank you very much, because you actually, each speaker has got it on the tip of their tongue. That's what we're waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for. I want to be more part of the community, and it's all there, but it's not going to take a huge lot of words out of the dictionary to do it, for goodness sake. It's probably going to take a cup of tea and a nice piece of cake, which we'll bake and put on the table. You know, that's where it's at. But you have got an amazing community out there. If they were more organised and they felt more in with what everybody else is doing, you would get a ton of help from all these wonderful people that have retired from their professional jobs, their ordinary jobs, and they just want to be part of the community.
Thank you, Hazel. Hey, look, absolutely. So I think good outcome today. Now we're going to take a break for morning tea. Love to have you join us. If we can be back, please, by 10:15. Okay, Zoe, if you'd like to, are we back online? Excellent. Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are going to now move into our next item, which is our alcohol control bylaw determination report. Now we have Mika online. Mika is going to talk to us about this item. And I know, Mika, you look better than I heard you might look. I know that you're not well. So look, thanks for coming online, and I'll hand over to you.
Well, thank you, Liz. Kia ora koutou, everyone. Yes, so apologies if there's any gobbledygook coming out today. Bit of brain fog is real. So today we're talking about alcohol. So Waipa District Council has 3 possible tools to deal with alcohol. We've been working our way through all 3, which has led to a bit of confusion, but the end goal is close, which is putting out a cohesive consultation document for the community to deal with, hopefully in August. But to help make that document today, we just want to step through 2 of the proposed draft bylaws to see if that's up to scratch, and then we can tick those off and make a really well-formed consultation document. So first up, we have the alcohol control bylaw. So alcohol control bylaw manages where and when alcohol can be consumed in public places by basically creating alcohol ban areas. So in front of you in the report, which I take as read, you should also have the draft or the track changes. So you'll see with the alcohol control bylaw, it's mainly formatting changes. It's just to make it easier to pick up and read. With that goes inclusion of some definitions so that you can just pick up the one document and know what you're reading about. And then there are a couple of more substantial changes that came out of workshops with yourselves and the community boards. So a couple of changes to the permanent alcohol ban areas. One is in Cambridge, which is the inclusion of Carter's Flat, and that's to future-proof the document a little bit. Gets reviewed every 10 years. This is a high growth area, mixed use coming in, and it makes logical sense to expand from the current alcohol ban boundary there. The second change is in Kiiki. There's just 2 small areas to the north of Kiiki, the end of Havelock Street, and the block of land, including sort of a parking area, the Anglican Church, and the Kiiki statue. And finally, probably the biggest change is the inclusion of Bulmer's Landing and Arapuni Landing as permanent alcohol ban areas in the evening from 8 till 8. Part of this report is also making the required determinations for bylaws under sections 155 and 147A of the Local Government Act, and that relates to the form of the bylaw, any implications under the Bill of Rights Act, and if the bylaw is reasonable. And yeah, so I would take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mika. I think this has been well canvassed around our table through various workshops. Are there any queries on this item anyone would like to raise? Roger.
Not a query, but just a comment. And well done on making the document far more readable. I think some of the past clauses were convoluted and, could have had different interpretations, but I think, and particularly guidance notes within there, help for people to understand the intent and the tenor of the act. That's great.
Thank you, Roger. Look, I think, Mika, it's full credit to you. It's a difficult and complex, subject, and I know it has not been an easy thing to, to work through. So full credit to you. I think you've done a marvellous job.
And Diana, I have to say.
And Diana, okay.
It's her beautiful guidance notes in there.
Okay, all right, full credit to you both. Okay, Claire is happy to move the item and Roger's happy to second the resolution. This is on page 59, A through to D. So we have a mover and a seconder. All in favour? Against? Carried. Excellent, everybody. Job well done. Okay, we will move on to our next item, which is the proposed draft alcohol fees bylaw.
Excellent.
Mika, I'm going to presume that you're going to carry on.
Yep, I'm here. Alcohol fees bylaw. So again, just summarising, this one sets out the fees for processing and monitoring alcohol licenses, and it directly impacts the fees that people pay when they apply for a license. So for this one, it's a new bylaw. The term bylaw is a little bit confusing because it doesn't quite follow the same bylaw process under the Local Government Act, just because of how it's made under the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. And we're proposing to increase the fees by 35%, starting from the 1st of July next year. So that brings us in line with when all the other fees in council get reviewed, and then also taking a stepped approach of a further 35% increase the year after. The stepped approach is not uncommon for councils who are introducing this type of bylaw. It's just to give the license holders a bit more, easing them into it. But the second step really is necessary to bring council closer to recouping that loss that we're currently running at. It will probably not be 100% recoup of funds for this, just because there is an element of public good in council managing the hearings process with these alcohol fees, so enabling everyone to participate in the licensing process. And there's a couple of process improvements that council is also working through. But in saying that, after this, leaving room for this to be reviewed in line with council's fees and charges schedule. So every time that gets reviewed, this will get reviewed alongside it. We can't combine it just because of the mechanism, how this has to be created. But yeah, leaving room for possibly, seeing if that increase is enough or if it's too much. But there is definitely signals coming from central government that there's a lot more that council is going to have to do in this space. Yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Mika. Yes, Claire.
Yes, thanks, Mika. I think you've done a great job here, and the bylaw is really easy to follow. And I know that other councils are doing it too, and it's just reflecting the reality that the costs involved in processing these things is far more than the set charge. The question I have is around the fees payable for special licenses. That's on page 4 of the bylaw, or page 139 of our agenda, because there's class 1, class 2, class 3, but it doesn't actually give any idea of what the classes actually are. And there is a guidance note that says that you can find out in the regulations, but for someone who might be doing this for the first time, especially for special licenses, they're not generally venues that do that, I just thought it would be helpful if the different classes were defined so people could see right there in the same document, which class they would fall into. So did you give some consideration to that when you were drafting the bylaw?
Yes, that might be a bit more of a Diana question, but that's definitely, I believe it's kind of this way just for tidiness sake, because it is quite wordy if you do look at that part of the Act, and you should be able to, when you apply, you find out what class you are as well. Diana?
Diana.
Through the chair, I can answer that. So we can expand that guidance note just to sort of spell out really what's in Regulation 9, so then people can see on the face of the document what it means.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, just to keep things in one place. But I'm just thinking of people who are not familiar with this kind of process and doing it for the first time. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, no, good point. So thank you. Are there any other queries on this? Monty?
Just one question, Mika. Top of page 3 of your report, you make a comment, the risk licence-based nature of the fees also fails to recognise that all licence applications follow the same process, so use similar amounts of time. Now, I get that. Just the question is, do our proposed fees go some way to mitigating that problem, or does that endure as a problem?
This is yeah, probably again more of a Carl question, but there are definitely improvements that we can make as a council in processing these. The team who does that have been understaffed for quite some time, so they're getting up to capacity now and working through that. It is probably a problem that will remain to some degree. One of the things that other councils have done, Wellington in particular, is they actually split out that risk. So they do add a little bit onto the higher risk categories in terms of fees. But it was very controversial. And in Waipa, there's actually not that many higher risked premises. So for now, just the flat cover fee is probably enough, but it is a residual risk.
And not all applications are all equal, I think also. That's the other part of this. Okay, all right. Are there any other queries, questions on this item? Otherwise, we will move to our recommendations. We're going to make a slight amendment. So I'm just going to ask that, should we put that on the screen, Joe, or should I just read it out? We're going to pop it on the screen. Just a quick amendment to reflect the change that Claire had requested in terms of the guidance notes, additional information. So we'll include that in the recommendation. So hold on for a couple of seconds and we'll jump that on the screen, and then we can move to the move in seconding part of it. All right, here we go, everybody. So just in the changes, what's highlighted in yellow. Claire, are you happy with that? And we'll, okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, Claire is happy to move and Mike is happy to second. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Mika. Go, you can go back to bed now.
Thank you.
Get well. All right, we'll move. Thank you very much. All righty. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item, which is Lake Ngaroto Creation Reserve Management Plan Review. So Brad is here. I believe that we will be joined online as well. Now, Oren was online before and Anna. So Brad, I'm going to let you introduce everybody and then we'll move through to that report. Thanks.
Thank you. Ngā mihi o te ata tātou. I'm actually here today in place of Adrian Kukui-McLeod, who is unwell today. But as Liz notes, we do have Anna McElroy from Exist, who is supporting us with the Ngaroto Reserve Management Plan, who will speak to us today and lead the kōrero. And also Oren Kapua from Ngāti Apakura, and who's been part of the project team as well, alongside Lee Seymour from Ngāti Hakairo. So Anna, without further ado, if I could pass to you, that'd be fantastic.
Morena koutou. I'm not sure if you can see my screen there, but hopefully you can hear me. So as discussed with you at the 7th of May workshop, the review of the Lake Ngaroto Reserve Management Plan is an exciting and important project to understand mana whenua and our community's aspirations, to respond to changing environmental conditions and legislation and policy frameworks, and to review approaches to achieve Council's desired outcomes. I'll take the report as read and just highlight that in addition to seeking approval to initiate the review, we are also seeking approval to extend the scope of the plan to include Council's 114 Bank Road property, the paper roads surrounding the recreation reserve land adjoining the lake, and any future land that's acquired to improve the health of the lake. And we're also seeking approval to work with mana whenua to confirm their preferred name for Lake Ngaroto. At the 7th of May workshop, we discussed using a focus group throughout the review for guidance on engagement and on key policy decisions. So today we're seeking the appointment of a committee representative to be on the plan review focus group. Tomorrow, either Aidan and I will be reporting to the Parongia Ward Committee to seek a representative from that group to join the focus group. And we're planning to keep the Te Awamutu local board informed throughout the project, and that will likely involve presenting to them at 2 key stages, plus responding to any other queries that they've got. So I'll end there, but very happy to answer any questions. And as Brad noted, Oren's also online.
Thank you, Anna. That's yeah, that's an excellent introduction. I might just kick the ball off here. Lake Naroto is so significant and such a key asset and such a well-utilised reserve that I really want to give this 100%. It has gotten thousands upon thousands of people that walk around Naroto, but its iwi significance is, you know, just beyond words, actually. So I absolutely appreciate, Oren, you've been online today to answer any questions around that. But I just want to make sure that this item gets and deserves, I think, you know, a lot of special attention. One of the things I wanted to raise today, and there is an appointment to be made, but I was really keen to see this increase to 2 elected members, just again to signify the, you know, the importance of it. The second thing is I'm really keen to work with staff as to who the other appointments will be made around the community. Again, for me, it's a very significant site, and I want to make sure and assist staff in finding the right people to give it the attention in my mind that it deserves. So I'll just kick the ball off with those 2 things. Claire.
Yes, thanks, Liz. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see this getting to this point. I know that there's been a lot of work being done leading up to this. Yeah, and just like you, Liz, I think we need to make sure it's done, yeah, incredibly well with really good participation. And I would support an additional elected member being appointed as well, if you felt that was appropriate. I did want to check whether or not it's likely there will be a hearing that will require RMA commissioners, because I wouldn't know, like I'd be quite interested in sitting on this group, but I don't know whether or not it would be appropriate if there was also going to be a hearing that used RMA commissioners or a commissioner. I just wanted to check with staff if they've got an idea what would be involved there and whether or not that might rule some of the elected members out of being part of the focus group.
Through the chair, Brad, I can see you're edging there, but if I respond to that. We did talk about the potential use of independent commissioners at the workshop, and what we heard back from you was that the council, you know, as the committee, you would be well placed to hear and decide, perhaps rather than using independent commissioners. So we'll consider that more fully, and as we draft the plan and look at it, we may seek some advice on that. But at this stage, I think we took your feedback from the workshop, and we think that probably is the approach that we will take, is to just have a hearing with the full committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so not use commissioners, just have it as part of the processes that the strategic policy and planning committee usually runs, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, which actually I'd be happy with. I think that makes more sense, that we're all included, because I think if there's concerns, there will be community concerns, you know, potentially. But look, I think a lot of this is going to come down to the quality of the focus group and making sure that our engagement with the community is solid. And I think that hopefully we can address a lot of those concerns well before we present a draft report. Okay. Like you, Claire, I was also keen to be on this group. So yeah, only because of my history, obviously. I was the lady with the pram lifting 2 kids over the fence before it had a proper path, and would often walk it with my gumboots because it was always underwater. So I know this reserve very, very well and have a great connection with it. So anyway, so I did just want to express that along with you, Claire. Anyway, I'll open it up for any other discussion.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think that the two of you would make ideally appropriate representatives on this group. And if we can change the motion to include two, and they being yourself and Claire, then I'm certainly willing to propose that.
Thanks, Roger. Any other discussion? Claire?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I just wanted to ask Oren, while he's online with us, if he as a Mana Whenua representative is happy with the makeup of the focus group, just to hear what his views are, just to make sure that, yeah, what we're proposing, is looking good as far as he's concerned.
Oh, more than and thank you, Madam Chair, elected members, for the opportunity to be able to be here today. Certainly appreciate the approach that has been taken today, up till today, and absolutely agree with the current conversation that's been, feedback that's been given today at the moment around the table, and that this is a significant taonga to us all, and review of the Recreation Reserve Management Plan is something that we're very appreciate and welcome the opportunity to be a part of. Agree that whilst we are undertaking this engagement, that needs to be handled with care, and my view is that the report gives a good balanced approach to that, to be able to take in the views of all of the community, different stakeholders and their views, so that we can come to a point where understandably we may not be able to meet everyone's expectations, which I'm sure the table are well aware of, but I think it's a very good makeup in terms of the committee, and yeah, very supportive of the way that it's been highlighted in the report in terms of the engagement. So yeah, just wanted to acknowledge staff and elected members for the courage that this may take to undertake a review like this, and that understanding that there may be difficult conversations that may come out of it, but just to let you know that we're up for it. I think also to let you know that welcome the opportunity to be a part of that Banks Road conversation as well, and that certainly from Apakura's view is that we've got some support that we can certainly provide in that, if that is helpful as well. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Oren.
Member.
Thank you, Oren.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I just have a quick question for either Anna or Brad. So I'm just aware that, of course, the sailing club and the rowing club have a lease, I presume, or they have it obviously operate from Lake Naruto. So will they be representative through the Sport Waikato Spaces and Places lead, or have we got a bit of a gap there?
Through the chair, the intention, I guess, is that we're going to be directly engaging with the lessees through that recreation work stream. So we'll be closely working with them in the pre-drafting stage. And then the focus group is more of a, I guess, a higher level body where we can go in and have a sounding board and discuss engagement approaches, and also some of those key decisions and get some thoughts. But we'll be doing direct engagement with the lessees prior to, well, as a separate work stream.
Okay, no, that's great. I just kind of wanted to make sure that those lessees had a place that they could, and obviously through staff as well, but also a place where they could voice any concerns through one of the focus group members. So it could be, yeah, I mean, we can talk about that further as the process works through. But I think that, yeah, I really like the the people, I guess the different organisations that you've, or different roles that people will play, that's in the report. I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, are there any other queries, questions around this? Bruce?
And I was just wondering, all the restoration initiatives that have taken place so far, they don't seem to be working, and we're going backwards. Will this review focus in more detail on how this could be remedied? Because it doesn't seem to be working in the present climate.
Through the chair, that's right. It's nothing is improving at this stage. In fact, it's deteriorating further. The management plan, as we talked about at the workshop, it can really only direct actions that are on the reserve land itself. The lake has a really significant catchment, wide catchment, largely with dairy farming on that, but some cropping as well. So there's aspects that we will be able to focus on and work closely with the regional council, particularly on what we can do through the management plan to improve the health and the ecological status of the lake. But there's a lot of other actions that need to occur beyond the reserve land, and that's largely probably the remit of the regional council and being addressed potentially through their plan change one.
If I could just supplement that through the chair. The reserve management plan will be a vehicle, I suppose, for bringing those different parties together. It won't be the fix for the water quality, or it does give a nod. We've already got a restoration plan in process to help along or to address some of those things. It is important to note that it's a long-term game here, just like it was the degradation of the water was decades of sort of farming practices historically. And so now as we get that riparian planting, that restoration right, it will be time again to bring that back up to what it once was as well. So it's a long-term game, and this reserve management plan will be a vehicle for bringing those really key parties together to make sure we're on the same page with that restoration.
Thank you, Brad. A good question, Bruce. I mean, this has been around, that item has been around our table for many, many years, and it doesn't feel like we're making huge amounts of progress, but appreciate it's a much bigger issue and involves a lot more, many other organisations than just us as well. So there's a partnership here, and we need to, if we can, continue to progress that. All right, okay, so are there any other comments? First, I'll just go back to the, I guess, the recommendation, which is on page 142, and it's A through to F. Are there any other, in terms of the appointments, which is on F, are there any other people that wanted to join Claire and I, or replace one of us? I don't mind. But is everyone generally happy with that? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, all right. Then I will ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Roger will move, Bruce will second. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Oren. Thank you, Brad. Okay, we will move on to our next item, our Waikato biodiversity. I'm thinking I was getting that wrong. Biodiversity Accord. All right, Bridget, welcome. Good to have you here. All right, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. So I'll take that the report has been read, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of points within the report. So as discussed at the council workshop on the 15th of May, the Waikato Biodiversity Accord is a voluntary, non-statutory agreement to work together towards progressing a strategic pathway for biodiversity in the Waikato region. Strategy discussions would be set to begin at the end of this year or later on in this year. The Accord provides Waipa District Council with a platform to highlight some of Waipa's biodiversity priorities and vision on a regional level. To date, discussions with partner organisations have been used to form the working draft. The most up-to-date working draft can be seen as an attachment to this report. The Waikato Regional Council are still working through minor changes as they're discussing with their partner organisations, which is why this recommendation seeks to delegate the finalising of the accord negotiations to Mayor Susan in consultation with Sally as those come through. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Bridget. Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget. Nice to see you here with this item today. And yeah, I'm really supportive of Waipa being a signatory. I just wanted to understand what those changes are that are being discussed. Are you able to share, what are those things that are being sort of looked at as that would, amend or alter in some way, that draft that we saw originally at, the previous presentation?
My understanding is that the discussions that are taking place are with around the treaty principles and just the wording of that and how that's highlighted within the report. And the other changes that have been made are around the whakatauki that have been put through the principles as well.
Thanks, that's good to get that clarified, and so I'd be happy to move the recommendation.
Well, thank you, Claire. Are there any other queries around this item? Everyone happy? It makes complete sense, doesn't it? We've workshopped it as well. Okay, all right, Claire's happy to move that recommendation, which is on page 157, so that's A, B and C. Is there a seconder, please? Lou is happy to second. All in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, okay, we are going to just take a 2-minute breather, everybody. So we've had some good, robust discussion, and we will come back to the separate crop protection. Don't go too far, just 2 or 3 minutes to stretch your legs for a second. Hey, and I'd just like to welcome, we've got Alice and Peter here who are going to be presenting the next item, which is the adoption and public notification of proposed, separate, let's start again, separate crop protection structures and shout about topics from draft plan change 30. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to introduce you to Alice. So Alice has been with us for just over 4 weeks now, I think, and has made a huge contribution to us moving forward. And this is the first thing that we've tasked her with looking at, plan change. So Alice will run you through the report and recommendations from there.
Morena Council.
Thanks, Peter. Yes, so what we've done is we've had a look at draft plan change 30. So last year, Council's SPNP committee resolved to expand plan change 30, which is plan change 30 is technical amendments, to include things like the crop protection structures and shelter belts. In looking at that again with some fresh eyes and looking at the information that has come through and the lobbying, I suppose, from both interest groups and interested landowners, it's been concluded that the focus of Plan Change 30 is for minor amendments, and the considerations of the crop protection structures and shelter belts is not a minor matter. It's not a technical change. There is actually greater thought that is possibly needed. And so as a result, we've brought this, the purpose of bringing this report to you today is to seek that we can separate out those two topics into a separate plan change and be able to progress that separately, which will allow that one to be notified more quickly and engage with the all interested stakeholders earlier than would be possible through Plan Change 30.
Thank you, Alice. It makes a great deal of sense. Monty.
Yeah, look, fully support that. That makes a great deal of sense to me because it is far more than minor technical. My question relates to solar panels. Yeah, because they're mentioned in the report, but it's unclear what's happening with them. And the question is, are they in the same category of a significant change to our rural landscape and therefore should be considered maybe now or sometime, but in the same fashion?
I can probably talk to that. So the parts of Plan Change 30 that were to address solar panels, I think, was based on some understanding that the plan didn't already adequately provide controls for it. And I think we've gone back and had a look through and that there is a discretionary activity status for your large scale solar activities already in the plan provisions. And so whether or not, when we're looking at Plan Change 30, if we need to even go down the track of having a look at it, that would be when we would address it. But if the concern is that we don't have adequate provision in the plan to address these large-scale solar farms, we do have a resource consent trigger for them.
Okay, so staff's opinion is that what's currently in the plan, which means that solar farming is a discretionary activity, that you've got adequate guidance and planning in the rural zone for that? Because could you elaborate what that is a little more? Because it's not clear to me, really.
Prepared on solar panels.
And fair call. So if that's the answer, that's the answer. I understand.
I think.
Yeah, I'll let you speak, Peter, but I think, yeah, if you wanted to come back to us on that, would be more than happy with that, but have a crack at it.
I'll have a crack. So as a discretionary activity, we're not restricted in the matters that we're able to consider and when an application is lodged with us. Certainly our objectives and policies for the rural zone give very clear guidance in terms of what rural character is or is intended to be. And that would provide guidance in any decision making, really good guidance in any decision making on an application that has been lodged.
Okay, Peter, the other part of this is in my back of my mind, I recall there being some central government influence in this space as well, that they have enabled solar farming. Is that correct?
Not specifically in a national policy statement sense. It might be something that comes through a fast track approval projects or things like that. But no, we haven't got specific guidance that relates to it.
It may be in train then. I just recall there being, you know how they did the cell phone towers enabled processing. Well, I guess what it did was it helped smooth the way, and I understood that the same thing was happening with solar power.
Yeah.
Susan, did you have a?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. This was an initiative by the previous Prime Minister. April last year, the government referred solar energy projects for fast tracking consent. So I think they utilised similar. They used the COVID-19 Recovery Fast Tracking Consenting Act to enable solar panel fast tracking.
Yeah,
but
so
I think that was just in respect of two specific Waikato solar farms.
Yeah, so you're quite right, Peter. That's likely to have, there may be some things there. Philip, question, and then Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks for your report. I was just going to ask a very similar question to Councillor Montgomery with on solar farming, because there is a proposal, there is a consent coming forward or in place now, something near Cambridge. So just
Have you got a, sorry, Philip, have you got a question?
ensuring that everything isn't, this plan changes in place for those consents to come in. So
your question's been answered, Philip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Claire.
So I just wanted to be cautious of that too. So.
Yeah. Okay. Claire.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I do support the separation out of this particular activity, because I can see the sense of it. Obviously, you are expecting some pushback or even some appeals. So I'd be disappointed to see those other technical changes being delayed. While that process was worked through. I do notice that there is a national policy statement for renewable energy generation, which I think would, cover solar panels. Yeah, solar farms. Yeah. And so hopefully some of the questions that have been raised about that probably dealt with, at that national policy statement level. Yeah.
Perhaps, Madam Chair, I could suggest that we put something in a newsletter about the solar panels and those issues, just so we can get our mind across it.
That'll be absolutely fantastic. Just bring us up to speed in our Friday mail out as to where we stand on that, because it is obviously something that's of high interest out there at the moment.
Yeah, and I do agree that it would make sense if we can see it as an issue for the community or our district, that since we're doing the crop structures and that maybe bundling it together, or something. So, I would appreciate it, Peter, if you could do a bit of work on that and just give us a bit more guidance. Thanks.
No, thank you, Claire. Monty.
Look, just a final comment from me on this. The economics are such that solar farming is beating pastoral farming as a return on your land these days. That's likely to continue. If you look at pictures from offshore, particularly China, every single square metre of hillside is now covered in solar. So I would flag to staff that I do think this is going to become an issue. I've been talking about this in Ahuaki because our rural economy and our rural landscapes are inevitably going to be changing. And I want that to be a dynamic change process, but at the same time, so you've got to get the balance right, obviously, of all the competing interests there. And I'm not totally convinced that where it's sitting in our district plan as a discretionary activity is adequate. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. That's my final question in summary. Thanks.
Okay. Any final comments? Otherwise, I'll put no. Okay, excellent. All right. Okay. Hey, we've got the recommendation, which is kind of partly on page 167, and the second part of it on 168, A, B, and C. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Dale Marie. All in favour? Against? Carried. All right. Thank you both. Great.
I'll stay for the next one.
Okay. Right. We are going to move on to our next item, which is the adoption and public notification of proposed plan change 14. And C10 Industrial Growth Cell in Hautapu. Now, this is the item that both Monty and I have declared a conflict of interest. So we are going to leave the room. So you will need a new chair for this item. So can I please ask for nominations for a chair? Lou? Thank you, Lou. Lou will nominate, Andrew will second. All in favour? Carried. Okay, Bruce, I'm going to leave. You're going to, we're going to swap places and we'll be back in a moment.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome, Hayley. It's a long time since we've seen you, or I've done business with you anyway. And Peter's, he's sitting in residence. So we've got item 14, adoption and public notification of plan change 14, Mangaoni precinct and C10 industrial growth cell. Do we have to note that the members have left? No? Or you'll do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hayley, I'll leave it all over to you. Or
Okay.
Peter, I'm not too sure who wants to lead.
We'll probably do a little bit of tag
Tag team.
teaming amongst ourselves. Hopefully this one isn't too unfamiliar to you all. It did come through by Tony Quickfall February last year as a draft sort of concept. Since that time, Fonterra have been very busy working with a team of agents to pull together the 1,000-page appendix to this report with various technical documents, which was no small feat on their behalf. And so where it's landed, I guess, today, and the purpose of coming to the meeting is council has the decision to adopt, accept or reject the plan change proposal, and those three options are outlined in the report. Our recommendation is to adopt it, which essentially means from the decision today moving forward, it becomes a council plan change versus a private plan change. And then the part two of the request today is confirmation to proceed to then publicly notify it. So the options there are either to limited notify it or publicly notify it. With limited notification, you need to be really sure that you can limit who you notify right down to a very clear set of parties. We didn't feel that was the case, so therefore the best outcome we think moving forwards would be to publicly notify it. So, and there, anything I've missed? Those are the two requests that we've got before you today. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Hayley. I've got Councillor Gordon's got a question.
Yeah, it's a clarification. My assumption, if this goes to a hearing, the commissioners on that hearing will probably be drawn from our own team of commissioners, as it was for the recent plan change regarding Hautapu. So if that's the case, is there any inference drawn from the fact that we recommend or otherwise that this change to a council plan change, is there an inference there that we agree with it and therefore there's a predetermination of our position as council commissioners? Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I'll just not vote on the matter so that it doesn't infer any predetermination.
Well, I agree with Councillor Gordon. It did occur to me that by participating in this decision, those of us that are RMA commissioners might be seen to be predetermined, and I'd be quite happy also just to stand aside and not participate in the discussion. Yeah.
And through the chair, I'm in a similar situation where I'm actually a resource commissioner as well, so I would have a conflict if this came.
I think in terms of practice, the best idea might be to decide to abstain from voting at this point and ask for your vote to be recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed, like to do.
Thank you. We don't.
That should have been done at the start?
of the meeting.
Yeah.
So at this juncture, the appropriate thing would be to abstain from voting.
Thank you, Hayley, or Peter, or sorry, Andrew.
So, look, I've got no issues with this. I mean, the land's clearly needed and that's fine. But I do, on page 193, under risks, it noted that one of them is that costs to council are larger than anticipated. And on 194, while no plan change process is without risk, the above mentions risk while identified and not deemed to be significant. There is risk potentially that more staff time and effort and expense is going to be involved. Is there any, I guess I'm asking, why are we taking any risk? This is not something that we're promoting as such. It's why can't the risk be Fonterra's?
Yeah, this one is a little bit, I guess, unusual in the way Fonterra is an organisation bound by set legislation. At the top of my head, I can't quote the act, but it is somewhere in my report. So from their organisational structure, they're not property developers. And so they feel it's outside their bounds to proceed further than where they've landed today in terms of an RMA sort of process. Does that make sense? It's a little bit vague, but
yeah, I can probably add a little bit to that as well. And that with any plan change, whether we adopt it or whether we accept it for processing, we accept some risk past the point of making a decision. Once the decision's been made, then that we end up being responsible for the costs of defending that position. What we're quite comfortable with in terms of the information that's been supplied to us, that we're happy that we can proceed to, that we've got good enough information to proceed to public notification. Once it's been notified, we'll then see what submission topics come out of it from various people, and that will help focus our minds on whether we need to get more expert attention to some of the matters that have been raised by submitters. We think that those matters will be relatively confined in this instance. There is potential that BATs may raise their heads again, and there'll definitely be input from neighbouring landowners and occupiers, particularly along Swain Road. But those issues shouldn't necessitate us to spend more money on having experts.
So we're up to 25,000, which is in the budget, I guess, not particularly for this presumably, but it's there. And we're not expecting that there's going to be really significant other costs come out of the woodwork without promising anything, obviously.
That's right. Yeah, we're reasonably comfortable that if there are major costs, that they will arise post-decision when we would be responsible for that anyway.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Right, if there are no further questions, I'll put the recommendation. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's through you, through the chair. Just further to a little bit of a corollary, if you like, to Andrew's question, just in the financial considerations, it notes obviously it's total costs are estimated to be 50 grand, and half of that is already budget, we've got budget for, but the other half is unfunded. And then there's sort of a proposal there that the unfunded sum would be sourced from Fonterra itself. Have we got any confirmation that that's something that they're willing to meet the costs on?
Not in writing. So what we do have from Fonterra at the moment is a deposit of 25,000 that they have paid. We have, through Wendy, we have agreed that we will not be on charging staff time from the district plan team, as we would normally do with a private plan change. So we'll be wearing the costs of that. We have broached with Mark Crisp, who is the agent for Fonterra in this instance, about us having an expectation that if additional costs over and above that $25,000 deposit do arise, that we would be invoicing Fonterra for those. But I do not have a hard and fast guarantee from Fonterra that they will meet those costs.
Peter, I've got the same concern as our Mayor, that it's in the benefit of Fonterra to keep this thing going, and they should be, fronting up with a little bit more, but that's only my opinion. So if there's no more discussion, I've got a recommendation on page 182. A, that we receive the report of Hayley Thomas. B, consider and resolve to adopt plan change 14. And C, consider and resolve to publicly notify proposed plan change 14. Do I have a move or a second? Well, okay, I'll second it from the chair. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Thank you.
No.
So, okay, yeah, clear. We're note of Councillor St Pierre, Gordon and Brown. Be noted of abstaining. The good looking one, sorry. Okay, well done. Okay, thank you. We'll get Liz back and Monty back. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Hayley.
Very uneasy.
Oh, I want to talk to you about just a brief.
I just feel really uneasy.
Just a text you.
Be covering the costs for
Oh, well, we could do it.
name change.
Edward Graham, who lives on the.
You know, because there is some benefit to us too. But if we haven't got
He said,
lost on the barrel, then signed up.
changes happening in the
Again, Bill, what are we doing?
What the future is to there. I don't think he's got interest in maybe land. No, required.
I didn't really get the reassurances I think you'd be looking for.
What's the submission to long-term plan? I just wanted to make sure, because Fonterra's paying for it. Because he had. Oops.
Okay, everybody, let's move on to, I'm back in the chair role. So let's move on to the rest of our day. So our next item is a resolution to exclude the public. So Lewis